Welcome to Spiritual Changemakers, the podcast that guides you through tough times with practical tools and inspiring stories. I'm Andrea Thomas, your host and the Sacred Transitions Coach. Join us as we hear from spiritual changemakers who have connected with their higher power and overcame adversity. Whether you are navigating a difficult transition or seeking to deepen your spiritual practice, our podcast provides guidance to help you find magic in the change. Come on this journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation with us and unlock your potential to become your best self. Welcome, my beautiful souls, to a new podcast episode on Spiritual Changemakers. I'm so excited for today's guest. It's been a year in the making. We were
Yay!
just talking about it and we finally made it happen. So welcome, Miki. I'm so excited to have you on.
So excited. I love that you're tuning in from Peru. I've been to Peru.
Yes, it's a very powerful, energetic space. And I'm actually in Cusco in the mountains right now. So it's a
I've been
very
there.
potent. Amazing.
Climbed Machu Picchu. I did the 4-day Inca Trail.
Wow. And how did you love it?
I loved it. It was like my friend Dan had just passed away climbing Mount Everest during the big earthquake back in like 2015, I think. And so we went to Machu Picchu with a flag of my friend who loved climbing, and we just climbed on his behalf the 4 days of Inca Trail, 10 hours a day, like on the side of the mountain in Peru. And then we went to the very top and planted his flag. And yeah, it was really sad and really beautiful and really powerful. Yeah.
Holding that duality now of
Yeah.
the beauty and the grief, the pain at the same time, which I know from what I have learned from your journey and reading about you and watching your videos and so on, and witnessing you on the stage several times, is that you are very good at doing that. And today, I really would love for us to dive into the topic of soft power. And this is a concept I heard you speak about on the stage at A-Fest. And I absolutely loved it. And I see, based on your journey, how you have moved through so many different layers around how you lead, how you go about your business, and how you've became such a successful entrepreneur. And I know you shared even on stage that you're kind of done of doing it through hustle and bustle. And I feel how that concept it's dying right now. But I really want to hear from you. How do you even define soft power?
Yeah. To me, soft power is an energetic. It's sort of, it's an attunement first with yourself and then to each other, then within community, within company, within community, within the planet. It's this radiating from the inside out. It's this deep attuned understanding of like what you need and how you can radiate that energy all the way through what the planet needs. What the community needs, what the company needs, what the planet needs. It's just like radiating out. And the way I kind of describe it is, on a more kind of sort of hard basis, like just like that tells a more like defined story is the idea of conscious capitalism. And I talk about conscious capitalism a lot. And the idea, I sat on the board of conscious capitalism for 5 years. And the idea of conscious capitalism is instead of just the shareholders winning, it's all the stakeholders winning. A shareholder is one of the stakeholders, but there's also the employees, the suppliers, the customers, and the planet. And so if all of the stakeholders win, then an actual conscious business outperforms pure shareholder led businesses by a factor of 10 to 1. So actually building a conscious business outperforms like just shareholder next quarter growth business, like 10 times, better. And it forms by a factor of 10 to 1. So it's really good to build a conscious business. And I believe that if you tack on this like soft power framework on top of it, by just really attuning to what you need, to what others need, to what the business needs, to what the community needs, to what the planet needs, then you tack that on, that this radiating, this energetic on top of conscious capitalism. And I think you can 100x your impact and 100x your return actually by building a conscious business that has a soft power framework built on top of it. And one thing I want to be very clear about is like soft power isn't just like this sweet, kind, meek energy. It's this being power. Like nature is powerful. Nature can literally like tear you up, can like kill you in 1 second, and it can hold you and nurture you and grow you all at the same time. Like we go into the forest and we're having a really hard time to put our feet in the dirt. And it's like we both can get hugged by nature and also get destroyed by her. It's again that duality, right? It's holding that duality
Yeah.
of like, wow. So I think that there's something so beautiful about this concept of soft power that it's like, yeah, can you hold these nature principles and really build from that place, And it doesn't mean just being a pushover, being like walked all over, like I believe in patience, but there's a time and place for growth, right? So for example, at Hero, we spent 4.5 years really planting this, like the seeds and really cultivating the soil to create our first, little version of our fungi that can break down
Mm.
plastic and our first diaper. And, we're always tuning into what does the business need right now in this season, right? Like in this nature paradigm, like what does this season call for in this moment? So we're always tuning into that kind of nature consciousness. And it's not like again, it's not pushover. It's not, even if you're patient and even if you're tilling the soil and you're being more thoughtful, it doesn't mean that, like that you're just gonna, like be patient forever or you know what I mean? Like so there's a line. Nature will spend, like I said, bamboo grows underground for 4 years and then it starts shooting up 39 inches per day. And so there's a time and a place for the cultivation, a time and a place to just witness the growth.
Mm.
And yeah, and always calls for like all the different types of energies that can come into play. So yeah. So that's sort of like it's showing an example of it, but it's really that it's a framework, it's a radiating, it's an attunement
Mm.
to like what you need, what a two-person dynamic within company, within community, within the planet. And it's just
So
radiating.
yeah, so it's really like caring about everything and everyone around you. And I feel like this is a new paradigm now that we are moving in because you were saying like conscious business and then putting on top the soft power. We are moving from that just like masculine, the wind, I would say more also like the winded masculine, where
Yeah, wounded
it's
mass, yeah.
just yeah, that
Wounded
is like
soothing.
pushing and working hard and competition. And the soft power is more of the collaboration, where you care for everyone involved to win.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, 100%. It is about the entire ecosystem winning. And part of it, it's like when I tune into like a startup or depends on where you are. Like I have Tushy, which is like a mid-size, it's 11 years in, and Hero, while we're 4.5 years in, we're still just launching the business now, like the actual like go to market right now. They both call for different types of cultivation, right? Different types of cultivators, different types of growing, different types of farmers, different types of tillers. Like it's just a very, very interesting thing to be in witness of both at the same time and what each ecosystem needs to thrive. And we all, like the beautiful thing about being human is that you can make mistakes and you can always come back from them. You can go one direction and it doesn't work. You can always go a different direction. The very next moment, the very next day, you're like, wait, this doesn't feel aligned right now. Let me go this direction. And and you feel your way. It's very much an attuned feeling your way energy into, the possibility that you want to see in the world. And it's never black or white. It's always this very, very kind of textured, like full of color, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. It just, this is what, this is where we are right now. And how are we going to move in the next moment, in the next day, in the next week, in the next month, in the next year?
Yeah.
And how are we going to tune into the frequency and energetics of what's needed right now or next year or in 5 years, right? But I
Yeah.
believe it's mostly moment to moment. And I think that's also the difference between hard power and soft power. It's like there's the yeah, like I always think like it's funny because I'm in this conversation with um one of my partners at Hero, and we're talking about like the need for a plan and also the need for the desire for emergence. Like you need both.
Yeah.
You can't just have one. And
Yeah, and
so
I would love to hear how you navigate that because it's like, okay, you have the plan, the long-term plan for the business, for the goals, for what you desire, but then it's operating from that moment to moment. How do you blend the two?
yeah, that's it. That is the experiment that we're on right now. And that's why it's such an interesting it's an interesting thing to tune into when I think about like the masculine versus the feminine, right? The masculine is like the banks to the flowing river,
Mhm.
right? The river gets to flow and gets to kind of splash around and gets to do its thing. And the banks is like what's holding the foundation of the river together, but it still allows for the flow. Right. And so like I'm always tuning into like for me, like I'm very much a flowing river. As a founder, I have to like find the right people to set the banks to hold the river to flow really, really beautifully, right? And so like we're tuning into like how do you in this early stage set the banks when you don't exactly know where the river is going to flow. And
Mhm.
that's why it's like it can be challenging for a lot of people who aren't used to startup culture. And that's why it's so important to bring in people who are able to kind of adapt moment to moment, day by day. And it's interesting because even like a month ago, we had, like one of our teammates was like considering like it's like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. There's it's a lot of, like it's just challenging. And we got to sit down and really work through like, okay, what parts of it really supports the ecosystem and then what parts really don't. And how can we tune in to find the best path forward that's deeply in flow, that doesn't just like cut off the energy. And it's a very interesting thing to build a business that's like, again, you do need a plan, and then you need the emergence and you need the flow that comes from the plan. There's that foundation that's being set. And then like, how do you flow from it? And I've just been in the deep, deep curiosity, like of this journey of like, wow, like soft power. Power is that plan. And the soft is the emergence. It's the flow. And so it's like that duality of masculine, feminine. It's the duality of, again, like this like flow state and this real sturdy banks, and how that must live inside of all of us. And also we bring in the right people to cultivate the ecosystem that can serve as both the banks and the flowing river. Does that make sense?
It definitely makes sense because you said something important there. You said, "Okay, I'm not the one that is gonna be the power, the one that creates to hold the river, but I'm bringing in the right people."
Mhm.
And what would you say to those entrepreneurs, those people that maybe they are more at the beginning stages and they're like, but I'm not at the stage to hire people right now. But I am, for example, I am very much also going with the flow and trusting the energy and we do need that groundedness because the power, that's what it does. No, it grounds you.
Yes.
So what do you do when you are at the stage of like, "Ah, I'm not there to hire someone, but I'm very in the flow. So how do I go to navigate the two?"
Well, it's interesting because I'm going to give a very totally out there answer. If you don't have funding or ability to actually have some kind of more stoic energy, I'm not kidding, Chat GPT. Like, you can literally ask chat. You can just say, "Look, like, this is where I'm at in my business. At this point, I've established a relationship with chat," as an example. Like, obviously, I have amazing people working with me to help me be the banks. I'm working always through, like, finding always the safety of the banks and making sure they're even safer every day that we go by. How do you create even more safety and sturdiness in the banks so that the river can flow as smoothly and freely as possible, right? and tuning into like, can these banks still hold like that can change structure a little bit for a while until it gets more and more set over time. But in the meantime, for those of you who are not able to bring people on to help set that foundation, I would say it's really, really like you can tune into like a chat and just say like, hey, I'm this, this is my business. This is what I'm working on. I'm more of like the flow, like act like like a veteran operator of a top like company that needs to create a full strategic plan for my business that does this and set up the entire structure for me and it'll do it. It's
Yeah.
pretty remarkable. Same thing, it's like, it's funny because I was having this conversation again with one of my partners in the business, and she was like, we were talking about how like, you know, I'm I'm like I'm not like a direct marketing button pusher, and neither is she, right? Where neither of us are that. And yet I'm just like, well, you know who probably would be able to teach us how to set up a plan? Chat. And it's like we don't need, and I don't want to necessarily even use that as like just a solution for everything, but it does give us like a great starting point of like, here's what. And it's sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to like say I'm working with chat, but I'm like, you know what? It's really helpful. And it's like if you say like act like a top like direct marketing CMO to set a full like funnel strategy for this business. Like I'm like about to do that right now for Hero, and just to see what it says. Like because it's 4 years talking about Hero, building it, like really understands it. And it's like, okay, now we're here. Like we're about to like go on growth and paid and like certain things. Like obviously, like to me, that's very old paradigm still. Like I talked about that even yesterday when I was in Nashville. I was just like, ugh, like like this trauma scale at all costs kind of energy comes from some of that energy. And yet you still need a plan of like, how will you kind of start to feed that engine a little bit. And so to really create, it's like it's like tuning into like what resources are really easy that knows me for the last 4 years. I've been working on at Hero for 4 years, and we can just like play together. It's so amazing in that way, especially for more pragmatic, like banks type
Yeah.
conversations. Actually, like AI is pretty good at that. Like when it's more about the lyrical, feminine flow, creativity, not near like can't compete with the human ingenuity in that way. But there's so much there that we can partner with that we're overlooking a little bit, you know.
That's so true. We can make AI agents now, and we can make them as
Yeah,
our employees, and it's just amazing what we can do these days with AI. I know I remember when I started like 5 years ago, and I was struggling so much like to write a sales page, or like, oh my god, like my head would just spin all around it, and now everything can happen so instantly. I'm like, wow, how much we advanced.
exactly. And then again, it keeps learning. So it's learned for me. I mean, it's not been 4 years because chat's only been around for 2 or something. Whenever it started, is when I've been feeding it so much dialogue. And so now it really, really knows what I'm thinking about, how I'm thinking about things, like how I'm going to think about go to market, like how do I want to think about like talking to moms, like in a way that's like so truly authentic to me. And
Yeah.
actually, I feel like she knows me better than, most people because of the amount of conversations I've had in that way. And of course, as a creative, like it's just one little outlet, but it's really good at organizing my thoughts and organizing
Yeah.
my ideas in a really easy, fast way. That feels really
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you like now you were saying how you have been building two business in parallel.
Yeah.
How has that been going for you? Because I've heard a lot and from quite a few of my mentors too, like,
I'm not building business in parallel.
no, you
No,
you, you would start the the foundations of the hero.
no. Tushy's 11 years old, and
Mm,
I have been like, I have a full team for Tushy.
okay.
I get the thing that I'm really doing for Tushy is energetically holding it. and touching in with my team a few times a week for creative and for my marketing team, and just to like touch in so they know that I'm always watching, but and feeling and energetically still very like really still available. But I'm not really doing like
Okay.
a
You're
lot.
not in the stage of keep building there or doing stuff.
Yeah, it's I'm more really in holding the energy and sort of coaching all of the team and just making sure that they're really aligned for this next phase of growth. And at Hero, I'm really like I'm the chief steward. Like I'm actually like chiefing this project and really driving the project forward, bringing the teams together and finding all the right ways to scale with the team. And so, yeah, it's definitely I'm definitely like much more about growing something from zero to kind of when it can like go from, being born to, or like,
Mhm.
like inception. I don't, can't, you just can't. And that's like part of
Sure.
the, it's funny. Like one of the things I was talking with, my team about all the time is like, just, we can't work with agencies because agencies work on all these different projects at once and it just doesn't work. Like immersion is the only
Mhm.
way. And so I'm just, yeah, it's just like it all has to make sense, but it has to be full emergence. And so like full immersion. And so like that's actually a really good concept. Immersion and emergence. I'm just writing that down. And emergence. Yeah. But that's the yeah, like I don't, like you can't have just part-time energy. And so with Tushy, I can't build two at once. And the thing is like I started things and then Tushy started kind of in tandem, but I was building things and then I took over Tushy when I stepped down from things. I took over Tushy and then just built Tushy. And then when I brought in a CEO and executive team and a full team for Tushy, then I was able to let go and start Hero. But I'm still currently, I thought I probably would have sold Tushy by now, but just the market has been a little challenging. And um, so still it's totally fine. It just is what it is. And it's just like, there's an energetic holding a little bit of both, but I'm really focused.
Yes. And with this, Miki, you've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years now. So you've seen the market shifting, changing. You've had to adapt. Like, what would you say throughout these 20 years of entrepreneurship have been some of your like biggest challenges, if you could name
Yeah.
one or two challenges, and what helped you overcome it? Because challenges is something we all go through, but what I would say differentiates those that still stay in the market, those that are successful are those that I don't want to say push through, but that move through it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like, I mean, growing any business is challenging. Like every part of it is an absolute challenge. And I think that's one of the reasons why some people like it and some people don't. Like some people have the ability to just, like get faced with a challenge and will either in that moment have like, you know, a learning or a success or a learning. Like I don't call anything a failure. It's like there's no failure. In my book Disruptor, I talk about replacing the word failure, even failing forward with the word revelation. Like what has been revealed to me? How have I learned and grown from this moment? So it's not like something failed. It's like, oh, this moment is what happened in this moment. And either we can learn and grow from it, or we've won in some way and move forward in a beautiful way. So either way, it's good. Um,
Yeah.
but I would say, yeah, just, building a company that scaled too fast,
Mhm.
and then having to put people in place that weren't necessarily aligned fully with the mission. Um, and and um and then having to unpack that was really, really, really challenging. And so that's why there's this like, yeah, it's like there's, I always say like hire slow, fire fast, but like, you really do like sometimes like there are points of a business where you have to bring someone on immediately to just serve. And then there are points in time where you're like, oh my God, that was the best decision of my life. And there are moments where you're like, I have to take my time before we bring someone on that's going to fulfill a role. Like there's just, I think for me, the hardest thing in my life is the process of is people, like managing people is just
People.
always, I think I'm getting better at it. I think I'm definitely, um, able to meet people in their moments and can hold it much better than I was able to before in the past. I would sometimes ignore or just like close up or distance. But now I'm able to much, much, much better meet any experience in their upset, challenge, whatever that they're going through. I can meet it without necessarily taking it personally or really finding empathy for their experience or sharing mine without any kind of necessarily defensiveness. But, it's hard. It's just, dealing managing people is like the biggest part of the job. It's one of the most challenging because human beings we're all flawed by design. We all
Yeah.
have good days and bad days. We all make rash decisions. We all take too long at making decisions. We all, we've sort of, the more we remove ourselves from nature, the more we're not tuned in, and I think it's like, how do we return back to ourselves, our true nature? How do we return to nature? And so I think for me, it's always just been, you know, having to deal with people in business. That's always the biggest, hardest stuff. Obviously, like the
Yeah.
challenge of changing culture and the challenge of, having people try something new and a behavioral change and, trying to, honor the planet and elevate people with the best product. And there's so much involved with just creating a product and that challenges the status quo and that gets people talking about and trying something new that they've been doing their whole lives. And like all they're just
Yeah.
they're their own challenges. But I would say, like, for me, the hardest things I've ever experienced was dealing with people who don't understand me or who I understand, like I felt misunderstood or misunderstood them, or we just missed each other, but then it's like all of a sudden a fight or something happened where you're just like, wait, what? That was not at all what I was thinking you're feeling, but now there's a whole thing about it. And so, it's like the way I always think about it, where it's like I'm a dolphin and you're a giraffe, let's just say, right? And it's like dolphins don't speak giraffe and giraffes don't speak dolphin. And it's like I come with my entire lineage of Japanese, Indian, cultural, ancestral stuff. My mom comes from samurai and she has all of her trauma from just samurais killing people or whatever. My dad comes from India and there's like so much stuff in that Indian lineage that got me where I am today. And so I'm meeting you in this moment as a giraffe or as your own species, where you come from your lineage of Romania and like all the people that come behind you that brings you here in this moment. And the fact that we're able to have a conversation at all is like miraculous. And so like we don't know
It is.
what's going on inside of you and what's going on inside of me as we're sharing. So much of the stuff that we interpret are our own stories, our own interpretations, our own, like feedback loop from our own experiences of our own life stories. And so often it's just so much of it is misunderstanding and not really being clear about what each other wants, needs, and how to express it in a way that the other person really understands, like what those deepest needs are. And so I'm always on that journey myself of just like relearning how to speak someone else's language, how someone else can learn my language without being so hurt that you can't speak. Like, how dare you not speak my language? But it's like, how could you know if you don't even know how to speak dolphin? Like, it's okay. So yeah, I'm just learning a lot how to, like we sometimes like do a really good job handling people. And sometimes you do a really bad job. It depends on how nervous you are in that moment. If you're having your period, if you didn't sleep the night before, and whatever, you haven't eaten, there's so many factors. If you're afraid for your own job, because now you have some family stuff happening and you need to make sure you feel safe. So you make a rash decision by doing something that affects the whatever. There's like so many that happens that we have to continuously come back to the mat and meet each other and say, hey, like that might have been too much. Or when I made that decision early on, it was like I needed that in that moment, or now whatever, or like in this moment, like it was handled incorrectly, it wasn't handled well. Like, can we come back and try again? And communicate, like, can we try again? Like, that's
communicating.
something that I've learned over and over. We're all over the place right now, but like, it's really like, to me, this is like, it's not like, oh, and then this dramatic thing happened. It's always like really about managing people. It's the circumstance of the time. At Tushy is dealing with the tariffs in the beginning of the year where Trump, made the tariffs like 200%, dealing with that. But like ultimately, most of the challenges come from people and just dealing with people. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I've had hundreds of employees in my life, like hundreds. And that came and went, like including including shift workers at restaurants. You know what I mean? Like I've had people for 11, I mean, I've been a restaurateur for 20 years now, and you have a staff of 10, 15 people that have just every year or 5 years, or there comes a point where, yeah, they're transitional. They're like students, or they're this, or they're that, or they're working part-time for this reason. They eventually transition out, and you have to learn to be okay with that too, and not to be so scared of change,
Mm,
So, yeah, so it's really
yeah.
that to me is the hardest, and I also am, like, really appreciating the practice of having to meet people every moment, you know, as best as I could. Even when I make mistakes, I'm not perfect at all, and that they have to acknowledge that too, that I'm also imperfect by design, and I will make mistakes over and over again. But I'm always willing to come back to the table and have a conversation and see if there's a way forward, right? So, um
It sounds like it comes like this approach right now, how you shared, like how you communicate now with people, how you learned more to meet them comes also, would you say, from that this concept of like being more in the soft power compared with how you used to be maybe 10 years ago, where it was more of the, would you say more of the wounded masculine, that it was like we have to push and work hard and it has to
Just
be in a certain
proving your
way and
worthiness, like, I'm proving that I deserve love by winning, and it's
mm,
like coming from a Japanese and Indian household. If I didn't win or was excellent, then I didn't get love. And I still believe in excellence. Like, I don't believe you can build anything without pure excellence. And that's also what I'm tuning into, like, at every stage, like, what does excellence look like at every stage of a project? And there's always some room to grow and room to make mistakes and to come back and try again and again. And what does excellence mean to you? And if you and I don't share
right.
some of those views on what that feels like, then we're never going to build a values aligned project together, because we don't understand that frame.
Yeah, because you said excellence, and it took me to the perfectionism as well. Because so many times, and I've seen this in so many women, I've seen it in myself, where we have this perfectionism that also like keeps you stuck. And then you don't move forward because you're like, it's
Right.
not perfect enough to move forward with it. So how do you separate between the
To me,
excellence and the
excellence comes
perfectionism?
from, like, really keenly diving into something that you don't know. Like, if you don't know something, or if you're, like, working on something, that you are going to go all the way in to figure it out. And you will watch every YouTube video, you'll talk to all the people, and you will figure it out until you do, versus, like, "I don't know how to do this," like, I need someone else to do this. For me, an excellent person is someone who's so curious, someone who's so willing to just like lift up their sleeves and just figure it out. And they do. And the fact that they, you know, do have that natural raw talent, at certain things that you need. Like, at the end of the day, like, yes, like, we're all imperfect, but we do gain skills over time. Like, you gain skills, and you gain things that you need for something to thrive. And like a farmer, like it's like you can work with an absolute green farmer who's super keen to like grow crops, but if they don't know like how much water and how much, like, where should you plant them and at what season and how much, and you're not, and no, and the young person is not doing any understanding or research on how to make it happen and put a plan together and make it, like, and then but then there's like a person who know, like, you have to but then maybe the other person is too complacent and they're not coming up with inventive ways to do it differently. And then you want someone with no experience to actually do it differently. That's never been so like there's benefits in every direction. So like it's never that's why for me, like the word I'm constantly using these days is emergence. Like what is gonna emerge? Like what's gonna emerge from what our needs are right now, you know? And so I think, the more
Yeah.
I tune into soft power, the more I tune into just like being attuned to the moment, being attuned to the needs of what we're creating and our mission, being attuned to those who are co-creating with us and trying to always like create ease and grace as much as possible, and shake things up as needed, like nature does, you know? It's like it's all of it. It's like I don't
Yeah.
want it to be just everything's boring and just like, there's no shake up. Like in permaculture, the most magical things happen on the edges of growth. And it's like you have to keep the edge sharp, otherwise it won't work either. So it's like there's just so much. It's all exists. It's all of it. That's why it's not just like one thing. Like to me, soft power really embraces the non-black and whiteness of it all. It's like it's all of it. It's all a learning and growing process. It's all figuring things out day by day, moment to moment. It's all making mistakes, coming back. It's all how do you like consciously communicate what you need with someone even when you mess up the first time, you come back and try again. It's just all of it. It's not there's no formula, right? Except for feeling deeply attuned to what you need, what the company needs, what the community needs, and what nature needs. Like what is needed deeply in this moment, and I will steward that to make it happen.
So beautiful. And as you were sharing, Miki, I could hear like all these women that are listening and watching this episode right now. And question that was coming through was considering you have this experience of 20 years of entrepreneurship, and not just that, but you've built two nine-figure, multi-figure businesses, and you've disrupted industry. So you are a disruptor. You are a rule breaker. You went into those topics that no one wants to touch. What would you share with those women that maybe are more at the beginning of their journey and they have been doing it and building their business from the wounded masculine? And they're like, okay, I really want to shift and I want to do it from alignment, from attunement, but I don't really know how to start and doing it that way because they are so wired into the wounded masculine and in doing it in the old ways. What advice would you give them to be like, okay, this like go this way or try this way because you are a disruptor, you are a creative. I would love to hear your thoughts on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, for me, it's like it starts with just taking space, like going into nature, sitting in front of a bunch of trees, and just sitting and tuning in, and then just asking that question, like, what is my next best step to move this mission forward? Like, what is my next best step? And it's like, what it is. Like, what it is, and oftentimes we just get so cloudy with like the to-do lists and the this and the that, and this person told me to do this and that person said I should do that. But when you actually tune into this is the attunement to soft power. It's like tuning in to like what you know to be true. You will know what that next best step is. Like you will know what the next best step is. And
So really connecting with nature and
And
listening.
listening, and then if you really don't know, you can talk with Chat, and she can help you, you know? And then talk to the right people and connect with, those whose thoughts you admire, but ultimately, like, you really need to tune in with yourself, because if you're building yourself, you need to know what your next best step is. I gave up my power to someone else, and I had to, like, eventually release him. Can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
and I had to eventually release him because he wasn't aligned. He wasn't aligned with me, and so yeah, so it's like tuning into, like, oh yeah, I know what this mission needs. Like no one else like know what I know if I give myself enough space because it's my project and it's like really my like I'm stewarding it and you just have to remember that.
Yeah. And how important would you say it's mentorship? Have you constantly worked with like coaches, mentors, and so on throughout your journey to guide you and have support?
It,
What do you recommend around that?
yes, I've had mentors and coaches for the last like 15 years, and it is truly integral for me. Obviously, at the end of the day, like what lives inside of you, but what's the best coaches really reflect back what you want, like reflect back who you are, reflect back what's true, and helps guide you to that truth. Ultimately, that's the best coaches. It's like they help take away all the noise and gets you back to that truth. And I think that's the best kind of coach, that they're not actually telling you what to do, but they're removing the obstacles, helping you remove the obstacles to guide you to your deepest truth. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Miki. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I will add in the show notes all the ways that people can connect with you and follow your journey with the launch of the new business. And I know you also offer mentorship yourself. You offer masterminds. So there are many different ways that people can connect and work with you. And you are such an inspiration to many women. So thank you for coming on and inspiring more souls on this earth.
Thank you so much. I love that you're doing this. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have an amazing day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Spiritual Changemakers podcast. To stay connected and help us reach more people like you, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. Join our community of spiritual changemakers on social media to connect with like-minded individuals and continue the conversation. Remember, the power to create positive change is within you. Keep showing up as your best self and let's keep the magic of change alive. Until next time.